Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kari and today I will talk about all the books I read in February and March. I gotta say that I didn't read anything in January and only one book in February, but 3 books in March, and I really loved those. And also I feel that they have all the Cottagecore vibes, and that's why I'm very excited to talk about them. I feel like last year wasn't a very good reading year for me. I gave a lot of 2 and 3 stars to my books, and I feel like most of the new reads weren't amazing. But these books that I will talk about now are great and they impacted me a lot. Before we start, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel. I upload videos about movies, TV shows, and books. Of course, this will be in the order in which I finished the books, and I'll start with the book that I finished in February, which is Little Women. This is a tale of domestic life through the eyes of 4 sisters that are very different. They have very different personalities, perspectives, and ambitions. Reading this book was something I thought I would never do. I was never interested in this story up until the 2019 adaptation. That movie changed me. I've talked about it in several videos before, and believe me, reading the book was so satisfying and great. I knew that I had to read the source material of this story that really got to my heart and made me feel many things. Even if the premise of this book is very simple, because it tells the life of 4 sisters, the trials and tribulations that they have to face, the romances that they have, and of course the family aspect. I feel the story is very important because we see how the sisters share a lot of joys but also a lot of sorrows in their lives. The character that I loved the most was Jo, of course. I feel like she's the protagonist. Even though they all have time to shine, I feel like Jo is the protagonist of this story. I related a lot to her aspirations in life and just the way that she saw society and marriage. And the story is not just a domestic tale. It teaches you a lot about life. It has many life lessons that I feel are so important to know. Lessons on childhood, family, friendship, kindness, ambition, love, grief, and gratitude. And many more. Those are the ones that I feel are the most relevant ones. I have to admit that this book is a little bit long, and sometimes I didn't want to continue reading. I was kind of tired because I already knew where the story was going, so I didn't feel that rush of wanting to know what's going to happen. But there are quite a lot of changes to the adaptations because now I've seen both the 2019 and the 1994 adaptation. Still, I wanted to continue and finish this book to know the end of the story of the March sisters. And talking about the March sisters, not only them are great, but the side characters are amazing. Lori is one of my favorites, but also Marmee. I admire her a lot. And I feel like all the side characters and the relationships that they have with our protagonists are great. Lastly, I gotta talk about the quotes of this book. As I said, it has many life lessons, and you get these life lessons a lot from quotes, especially from Marmee talking with the girls, but also between them. I feel the conversations are very important for this novel, and it is within those conversations that we get so amazing quotes. I will leave the link below of my review on Goodreads. There I wrote several of my favorite quotes from the novel. And as a conclusion, I truly feel like everyone should read Little Women. It is a timeless story with amazing characters, a cozy setting, and a lot of heart. Now let's start with the month of March, in which I finished 3 books. The first one of those was Anne of the Island by L.M. Montgomery. Okay, I stopped reading the Anne of Green Gables series because the second book kind of disappointed me. It wasn't as good as the first one, which is a masterpiece in my opinion. But this third book was so much better than the second one, although not as good as the first one, of course. Here we see Anne as she goes to college. So we have the ultimate college experience full of friendship, romance, and nostalgia. Here Anne meets a lot of people and a lot of women that are very interesting, I have to say. And she even has a romantic relationship that I wasn't expecting but was quite interesting to read. Her relationship with Gilbert was quite interesting, but I didn't like the way that they end up together at the end. I felt like it was kind of weird how Anne realized that she loved him. I don't know why, it was a little bit weird for me. But all their interactions were great and amazing. And of course, I was always thinking about the cast of Anne with an E when I read about them, so I truly enjoyed that. But even if the romance was important, I feel like the crucial part of this book was the friendships and just how Anne realized that she wasn't a kid anymore. how she remembered old times and the perspective of being a child, and now she saw everything so differently because she was now studying, her friends were getting married. That's why I think this book is very different in the essence. The childhood feeling of the first book is not here, but I just like that Anne as a character remains faithful to how she was. It is still entertaining to follow her because we see her love for the little things in life and her eternal gratitude to the world for the blessings that she has. That's why I think this read was great, even though I didn't like it as much as the first one. I think it's worth reading even more than the second one. And I will continue, but I will take it slowly. Maybe I'll finish another one this year, but I'm not completely sure. Even if I said that, I still encourage everyone to read the first book, Anne of Green Gables. Really, you won't regret it. The second book I finished in March was Everlasting by Natalie Babbit. I feel like her last name sounds like the word rabbit, and I just cannot stop thinking about that. But anyway, this book was amazing. It is a simple and beautiful story about life, death, and immortality. I have to admit that I didn't think I would love this book as much as I did, especially because I found it recently. Like, I didn't want to read it for many years, like it tends to happen with some of the books that I read. This was just like a surprise. I really wanted to read it, and I don't know why, it was just an impulse, but I'm very glad that I did because it's now one of my favorite reads of the year. The premise is very intriguing because we have a family that doesn't age. They are immortal, basically. They cannot die. We have a very cozy setting, believe me, all the cottagecore vibes, because they live in a cabin in the woods and just their daily family life sounds so cozy. And this book is very short, so it will be a quick read. The characters feel real, all of them, and you get to care about them quite fast. The protagonist Winnie lives the revelations of the story along with us, and I think that's a great way to represent the story. The story is full of childhood wonder, but also deep topics about life and death. And we have the elements of magic that are very interesting. Of course, here the magic is not explained, but I think that's exactly what makes the story good. Because after all, that's what the message of the book is all about. The book explores immortality and life, and it tells you that life is a cycle, and that actually it is worth living only because it will have an end. It's quite a heavy topic for a children's book, but I like the way that they represent it. It's very easy to understand given the context of the story. We see the way that the characters see in being immortal, and we see that living forever is not as fun as it would sound. I just think that it's a great topic to reflect on, and amazing that this very short book analyzes that. The ending was sad but very poetic in my opinion. That's why I liked it, because I feel like it makes sense. I will probably reread this book later just to reflect on it, because I feel like if I reread it, I will find more interesting things than the first time that I read it. And the third and last book that I finished in March was The Navigator by Erin Michelle Skye. This is a sequel to The Wendy, which is a Peter Pan retelling, and I am in love with this story. I will talk about general things in here because I don't want to spoil you. I really want you to read The Wendy because that was a great book, and as this is a sequel, I will talk about general things only. This book introduced many interesting new characters, great world building, and lore to this new version of Peter Pan. We see a lot of development in the characters that we already knew, like Wendy, Captain Hook, Peter himself. And the setting here is full of possibilities. A lot of things keep on changing as you learn new information about Peter and about Neverland. I like that the side characters like Hook, Michael, John, and Nana are very similar to their original versions. How they emulate them is just so great. But they are not exact copies of them. They have some aspects, but they are their own characters. And I'm very happy on how they changed that in this story. And we have new characters that interact with Wendy, which are Charlie, Nicholas, Vegard, and Charming. Those were also great. Also Tiger Lilia. I don't know how to pronounce her name, so that was my attempt at the pronunciation of her name. If I was wrong, I'm sorry. But she was also amazing, and she knew crucial information about Peter Pan's past. The villain's plot was also very good. I wasn't expecting it, and it made sense the way that it happened. All the explanations we got and the world building was amazing. I'm just really happy that I read the sequel because the first book was good, but this was so much better. And the story has a little bit of everything. It has humor, action, also sad parts and reflections, and interesting characters. So I really do recommend this Peter Pan retelling because it's one of the best that I've read. I cannot wait for the third and final book to come out, which I think it's going to be in September. But yeah, basically I'm very happy with this trilogy and I cannot wait to read the conclusion. Those were all the books that I finished, and now I will talk about the DNF because not everything was good, and sadly the book that I DNF'd was a classic. I've never done that before. I have DNF'd contemporary and fantasy popular books, but not a classic. This time I DNF'd 1984 by George Orwell. I started reading it and the concept and the first chapters were great. I struggled with the writing style a little bit. I felt like it was just a huge monologue inside the head of the character, which I think is why a lot of people like it. And I guess that was one of the aspects that I didn't really like. I think, yeah, it was mainly the narration style because I felt like it wasn't very fast-paced. It was overly descriptive, and I liked some of the descriptions and some of the reflections, but others were way too long. So I feel very conflicted because I really wanted to like this book, believe me. And I liked the idea and the premise, but I couldn't finish it. After that, I read a summary because I wanted to know how was the ending, if it would have been worth it or not, and I really like it. I mean, the message is intense, but I didn't regret not finishing it. So yeah, that was my view of 1984. I liked a lot of quotes, I underlined a lot of quotes. But generally, I don't think that this book will be very relevant to me in the future, not a book that I will want to go back to. It is a classic and a very popular story, but it wasn't for me. But I might try to read Animal Farm, also by George Orwell, because I really want to like this author. I will probably try to read another George Orwell book in the future. And that's it for the video. Those were all the books that I finished in February and March and the book that I DNF. If you have read the books that I mentioned in this video, please let me know in the comments your opinions about them. I would love to know and to discuss that with you in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content about movies, TV shows and books. You can subscribe here, and here in the screen I will put more videos for you to check out. I'll see you next time.